Happy Tuesday. The time is now 8 o'clock, so we are going to get the committee on appointments started. We have a few action items this morning, starting with number 1, if you want to pull it up, City Clerk. We have a resolution recognizing the appointment of Tim Roseboom to the Vital Streets Oversight Commission. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. This is to fill a vacancy for a seat that is set aside for a member of the Rapid. Any other discussion or questions on this item? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2, a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Ashley Huey to the Housing Appeals Board. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion or questions on Ms. Huey? Commissioner?
Madam Chair, I'll just add that Ms. Huey is also works for the Kent County Community Action Organization, and I think will bring a good mix of professional experience as well as just personal mission to this body. Thanks.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of David Stauffer to the Uptown Business Improvement District. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any additional comments on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Celeste McIntyre to the Monroe North Tax Increment Finance Authority. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any additional comments, colleagues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, item 5 looks like
It looks like it was corrected here.
okay.
Just duplicate on that. That's good.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So this is the correct one? This formal one? Okay. Okay. Okay, item 5. Sorry, my notes had were not updated. But the one that was officially published online is correct, so that's the one that we are going off of. Item 5 is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Kevin Voss to the Michigan Street Corridor Improvement Authority. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any additional comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll add that Mr. Voss, he's a second warder, but he's also works for Corewell Health and has been very actively engaged in that corridor, so I think he will bring a good voice to that body.
Thank you. Any additional comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is a resolution confirming the City Manager Washington's appointment of Daniel Chase to the Urban Forestry Committee.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And item 7 is a discussion item related to our vacancy list. We have a lot of appointments going through, or a lot of PIFs and folks who apply going through vetting through the city to make sure they're eligible. So a lot of folks will be coming before us in the next month. Additionally, Becky is going through kind of all of the folks who have a term that is ending soon and getting them prepared for our year-end appointment process. Becky, anything else that I'm missing around kind of what you're moving through right now?
No, that's it. Just sort of
Push your button.
Post-election, wrapping my head around the end of year and getting everything in order for those next couple of meetings. They should be pretty full with appointments.
For sure.
Cool.
Commissioners, any discussion or comments on the vacancy list? Commissioner Sassi?
Thank you. I just want to say, Becky, it's been, it's only been a couple of weeks. I know you and Chair Perdue had a chance to meet a while ago, but it's really clear that you have an attention to detail and excited to continue working with you. One of the things that we also talked about was, looking at all those year-end appointments. I know that you've been working closely with a lot of the mayoral appointments. Could you send the ones that are specifically for commissioners that we have? Because I know we all have kind of limited appointments. We have like Affordable Housing Fund, I think that was like a 3-year appointment. So I don't know where that is in terms of timing. The public safety ones are a year. I think we have some for like Parks and Rec. So that would be helpful to see. And then I know you're matching up kind of like who you've gotten with PIFs. I also think like, do we need to do our PIFs? City Clerk? because we got that note, you brought that up the other day, Commissioner Purdue, about, that it was the automated system and it was maybe not clear to individuals that it was a request from the city to complete that.
Yeah, I don't think for commissioners you have to do
You don't have to do
this.
that? Okay,
No, because you'll get it based on your
okay.
being a commissioner.
Just want to,
And to your first question, Becky is actively working on
Okay.
that list of commissioner-specific appointments. In addition, a lot of the ones coming through our mayoral appointments as well.
thank you.
So thank you for raising that. So yeah, we'll be super busy between now and the end of the year, so thank you in advance, Becky. Any additional discussion items?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, the time is 8:05. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We will call the Fiscal Committee to order here at 8:31. First item on the agenda this morning is a resolution accepting a grant award in the amount of $1,475,000 from the U.S. Economic Development Administration Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Program for facilities and equipment at the Fire Training Center.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Chief Brown, good morning, sir.
Good morning. This is a unique opportunity for the fire department and city of Grand Rapids. This is the first time EDA in this region has ever seen a fire department go for this grant. So we were digging deep, and this will pay for our burn building out at the new fire training center. And we anticipate this to be a very heavily utilized structure, not only for the city of Grand Rapids, but the region as well. So excited to accept this.
Very good. Questions or comments for the chief? No, great work, Chief. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 2, resolution accepting a continuation grant award from the Office of Highway Safety Planning in the amount of $37,773.82.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Weigel, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Appreciate your consideration of this request. This is a grant we receive every year from the state's Office of Highway Safety Planning. The amount is comparable to previous years. We use it for overtime to do traffic enforcement. The whole goal of the program is to reduce traffic fatalities. We have to do 3 operations per year. We have the discretion on what to do. So it can be speeding, it can be seatbelt. It could be distracted driving. I suspect speeding is a popular complaint, so I imagine we'll use some of the overtime for that. Happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 3, resolution accepting $174,821 grant and executing an agreement with the Grand Rapids Community Foundation for the integration of T2C studio services for the Challenge Scholars Program.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Good morning.
Good morning. Shannon sends her apologies. She's currently attending the National Summit Learning Conference in Washington, D.C. My name is Gina Peters, and I work for our community's children as the program coordinator for T2C Studio, the Grand Rapids Center for College Success. This is the second year of funding from the Grand Rapids Community Foundation, and this will allow us to continue our College as Possible culture with those 12th graders at Union High School who are eligible for the Challenge Scholars Scholarship. And in building this College as Possible culture, we will integrate the best practices in our holistic critical advising, and that includes everything from best fit and unpacking the hidden curriculum to ensure that these challenge scholars get to and through college.
Very good. Thank you. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, resolution authorizing a contract with Experience Grand Rapids in the amount of $150,000.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Mr. Kane, good morning.
Thank you, Commissioners. Congratulations to Gina, who was just up here. It's her first time presenting, and that can be nerve-wracking, but good job, Gina. Yes, this is an annual contract with Experience GR for an amount of $150,000. As you know, Experience GR is the lead when it comes to our area in promoting Grand Rapids. This contract includes general support, but also an additional $50,000 to support inclusion work that the organization supports. So we can have a more multicultural visitor and experience for people here in Grand Rapids. I have representatives of Experience GR here too to answer any questions, Mr. Doug Small and Jordan Eatman, and I answer any questions that you may have.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? Anything you gentlemen want to say while you're here?
Sure. I'd like to, a big thank you, obviously, for our continued collaboration. As I think back to former City Manager Sundstrom's last year, we made the agreement then that going forward that many funds bestowed upon us from the City of Grand Rapids would be used for our DEI efforts. I'm proud to say that we've done that and then some, as we'll spend probably 5 times this amount on that program of work. And speaking of work, it's working. A lot of good things going on. So we appreciate your continued contribution to the visitor economy, and we'll continue to do the work on your behalf.
Very good. Appreciate that. Good to see my friend Mr. Eatman up there.
Thank you.
Colleagues, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, resolution authorizing an agreement with the Urban League of West Michigan to implement the framework and priorities identified in the Black Business Voice and Advisory Consortia Initiative for an amount not to exceed $125,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Behrens, good morning.
Good morning. This contract has been a little bit in the making. So in August of 2023, the Urban League and partners reported out on the initial product of a contract with the city around supporting Black and Black-owned businesses in the city of Grand Rapids. We have been working with the Urban League and other partners to develop a scope of work to move from the framework idea into some support for transition to implementing that framework. So an organization that's envisioned to be a membership or other type of organization needs a little bit of support to show the value to potential members. And so that's what this contract is designed to do. We did make a presentation with the Urban League at EDPT a couple months ago, got feedback from some of the commissioners about ensuring that we are supportive of that organization, make sure we're not biting off too much. So the scope is still quite robust, but the idea being that we'll be able to, through conversations, manage the contract to prioritize as we move along. So again, we wanted to have some flexibility in the kind of work that the organization could do as it goes out to the community to speak to potential members about what would be of the most value. So you'll see the scope is still pretty broad in terms of the ideas that are covered, but we would manage to the funds available in the contract to be able to meet the needs most envisioned. Just to wrap it up real quick, one of the outcomes, as we go forward, the outcomes would be, at least from the city's perspective at a minimum, kind of a formal organization that can carry on the work, and then additional support for some conversations going on in the community about how to evaluate how the work is doing, particularly for Black-owned businesses in the Grand Rapids economy, as we looked for ways to continue to monitor and evaluate that portion of our economy and make sure that it is regionally inclusive.
Very good. Questions, Colin? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, resolution authorizing an agreement with the Grand Rapids Urban League in an amount not to exceed $750,000 to continue to serve as the lead agency for Cure Violence Grand Rapids.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Davis, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. As always, the title explains the item. The goal here is to continue the work of Cure Violence in Grand Rapids. We're now entering into our 4th year of this project here in Grand Rapids, and we've seen tremendous results. There was a presentation to the Public Safety Committee about 2 months ago, I believe, that gave the annual report to show the continuous correlation between the work of Cure Violence and the reduction of violence in Grand Rapids. We know that this is only one prong in the work that we're doing. We're also grateful for partners like the Grand Rapids Police Department that also work to do this work.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 7, resolution authorizing a 3-year contract with Home Repair Services of Kent County Incorporated for low-income refuse collection program not to exceed $146,113.19.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Gorney, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. The City and Home Repair Services of Kent County have had a long-standing relationship. Home Repair Services of Kent County has administered the low-income refuse program for many years, and we'd like to continue that with this resolution. The resolution does retroactively begin January of this year and would extend for 2 additional years beyond this current year.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Item 8, resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with Kent County, allowing the city of Grand Rapids to retain the interest earned on Kent County tax collections.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
Good morning, Commissioners. This item was brought forward because Peter McGregor, the Kent County treasurer, came to the city and essentially proposed to allow us to keep the interest collected on property tax monies that are in our possession between the time when they're collected and dispersed back to the county. If you recall, I'd talked quite a bit about this where those monies had been invested. This would only have any effect on money held for the county in particular, would not affect any, Grand Rapids Public Schools, Kentwood, et cetera, any of the other taxing authorities. But roughly speaking, preliminary estimates would be last year, or I should say this year, our interest on Kent County's portion of the summer tax roll amounted to about $35,000. The Michigan's General Tax Act allows the city treasurer to retain a 1% administrative fee in order to compensate for the costs of collecting the tax roll and, printing, mailing, that sort of thing. That $35,000 would have roughly paid for the shortfall between the revenue that 1% provides and our actual incurred expenses. So for that reason, we're obviously recommending we accept and keep the interest.
Very good. Colleagues, questions on this? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 9, resolution authorizing an agreement with Fishbeck Incorporated to provide services at the Water Resource Recovery Facility and Lake Michigan Filtration Plant to design, execute, and manage the sewer and water utilities SCADA modernization overhaul project in an amount not to exceed $5,849,125.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Oots, good morning.
Good morning, Commission. So earlier this year, Environmental Services Department and the Water Department contracted with a third party to perform an audit on our SCADA system to reveal our vulnerabilities. Based on that audit, we released an RFP to overhaul and upgrade our SCADA system for the water and wastewater system. Based on the reviews of those proposals that were submitted, city staff is recommending the approval of Fishbeck to design, execute, and manage the SCADA modernization and overhaul. The project is slated to be a 2-year term agreement with option of a 1-year renewal. We are planning on utilizing $3.5 million in ARPA money that was previously approved, and the remaining amount is to be paid for through the water and wastewater rates that are currently underway.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 10, resolution authorizing the publication of a notice of intent to issue bonds in an amount not to exceed $100.5 million for the soccer stadium project.
So moved. So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Chapman, good morning.
Good morning. This resolution would allow us to publish that notice of intent in the Grand Rapids Press, allowing the city to issue 100.5 million bonds for the soccer stadium. These would be part of the city's, it's a general obligation bond, so backed by the full faith and credit of the city, but they would be paid for by the Kent County, the hotel, motel, the lodging tax. So it would be a new revenue stream coming into the city to cover that debt service in full.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 11, resolution authorizing a budget substitution of $356,500 for the Parks Capital Investment at Plaster Creek Park, Garfield Park, Houseman Playground, and other Parks Capital projects.
So moved.
Moved and support. Mr. Marquardt, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Parks Department just recently established a capital sub-fund as a part of the millage fund for greater clarity of use of those funds in addition to the operations and recreational uses that are associated with the Parks Millage Fund. And so as a result, we're here today to ask for some reallocation of some of these funds from projects that have been completed or delayed. Anabawan Park is one of those. It's the largest. That project has been pushed a little further out into the future to accommodate river construction and river restoration. The two other projects, Highland Park and Riverside Park, are two projects that have recently completed that have some remaining fund balance. And so we are asking to reallocate those funds to restoration of a restroom facility that was damaged to a vehicle crash in Plaster Creek Park, allocating some funds to Garfield Park Lodge improvements, continuation of a dog park study, and the rehabilitation of the play space up at Houseman Field in coordination with GRPS. And so we ask for your consideration of this reallocation.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, sir. Item 12, resolution approving a change order to the contract between High Street IT Solutions LLC and the City of Grand Rapids to extend the contract term through April 30, 2025, with no increase in the contract amount.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Claren?
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, the ERP project continues to muscle on. We've hit more disruption. I listed out the main components, but we do have problems on both sides, the cities and our implementers. So we're working with High Street to improve their internal communication. The third-party softwares that integrate with our ERP kind of move at their own pace. And then as we've had to reset or to redesign this summer, we found that, with the new resources brought on by High Street, they needed to be brought up to speed, so that got us behind in solutioning. So for the City of Grand Rapids side, it's really staff resourcing. We have people that have had to leave the project due to medical illnesses or simply have left the city. So one key area, for example, was in payroll, where we lost our payroll supervisor. We've been trying to fill that, but obviously you bring in a new person, they have to learn just what we do. So as a result, the rest of the project team has had to, straddle across multiple roles when we have those kind of absences, and that makes, again, getting the work done, getting the data out to High Street take longer. So we're triaging all those situations because we do have problems on each side of the project. In the negotiation I did with the steering committee, we did not want to increase the contract amount. High Street agreed, so we're simply just moving the go-live date, resetting the payout schedule, and in a way, April is going to be more advantageous for a department like our Central Accounting Comptroller Department, because it's not at the end of the calendar year where they're working on the year-end processing there with the straddled payroll and all that kind of stuff, W-2 process, all those kind of things. And then it's before our year-end where they start having to spool up to do, cash audits and things like that. So the Grand Rapids team is more confident in this April timeline. The go-live would be at the beginning of April, so that we have a month of support before we kick into just the ongoing SaaS support. So that's if you have any questions, happy to answer.
You're still confident this is the right solution?
Oracle Fusion is a tried and true product. I think the issues we're having is more of a resourcing perspective on both sides. So I am confident in the product, and we are working through it. So these things are never easy. I know we had a delayed go-live with our last implementation. I've done a couple others elsewhere, and there seems to always be, it's a huge lift. So, unfortunately, I am disappointed we had to push the go-live, but I'm confident our team can get it done. So.
Very good. Colleagues, any other questions?
Just one comment, Commissioner. I know this memo here, details the $8.4 million we are, spending with High Street IT Solutions for this implementation, but a lot of the heavy lifting does still fall on our city departments and employees, and I think I can speak for everyone when I say that, people have been putting in, evenings and weekends across the board to help make this project successful. So I just want to as we go through some of these changes, just really express my appreciation and gratitude for, all city employees and departments that are really giving this 100% to make this project successful.
Very good. Colleagues, any other questions? All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 13 is our bid list resolution for November 12th, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Claren?
If there are any questions, I will directly you. I know a couple years ago, the sidewalk snow removal pilot was a new thing we implemented here, so there's continuation of that in the bid list. But beyond that, a lot of pretty much routine items.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions on any items? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 14, Comptroller's Warrant Report for the period October 8, 2024 through October 21, 2024. Mr. Mr. Comptroller.
Good morning, Commissioners. So for the first report here, the warrant report for the period reference, the city released cash payments totaling $21.6 million, and that includes just under $5.4 million for our employee payroll expense. In terms of quantity, we issued 1,045 checks and electronic payments, and the details of those above $20,000 are included on the following pages. Also, we have here our small claims report for the third calendar quarter of this year, and that details the 14 claims that the city paid out during that 3-month period, totaling just over $40,000. The details of those claims are also available in the accompanying tables. And then lastly, we have our September fiscal year-to-date travel report that details travel spend by each city department, and that is showing so far we have spent $413,000, or about 14% of our overall budget for the year.
Very good. Colleagues, questions for the Comptroller? All right, hearing none, those reports will be received and filed. And our final item this morning is the Treasurer's Report for the period October 8, 2024 through October 29, 2024. Mr. Moore, good morning, sir.
Good morning again. A globally significant event took place last week that impacts everybody in this room, as well as the city's finances investment portfolio. And of course, I'm talking about the Federal Open Market Committee meeting, at which interest rates were cut 1/4 point. Don't know what else happened. While markets have generally digested the FOMC action, they're still sorting out the likely path of the economy and interest rates going forward. The extent to which the president-elect will be able to implement his proposed policies will depend in part on House races which have yet to be called. So there's a lot of uncertainty. We're not sure what's going to happen at this point. This report was written almost 2 weeks ago before the election. Our assessment of the likely path for interest rates in the city's portfolio was only in its beginning stages. Because of that, generally speaking, since the election, equity prices, stock markets, have risen. Most pundits believe that that's, and analysts believe that's in anticipation of a generally easier regulatory environment. There were also a couple positive earning reports that came out as well. However, yields on intermediate and long-term bonds, the likes of which the city buys on a regular basis, have also risen primarily in anticipation of a somewhat higher inflationary environment due to proposed tariffs. One thing I will note is that the market has repriced the terminal rate range of FOMC's rate cutting cycle. The report lists that as 3.5 to 3.75%. As of this morning, that's up 1/4 point to 3.75 to 4%. The Treasurer's Office will obviously continue to monitor the fiscal and monetary policy environment alongside market conditions to manage cities' investments with the primary goal of safety of principal, secondary goal of providing liquidity as needed, and only once those two have been met, a tertiary goal of obtaining a competitive yield. Our portfolio currently stands at $743.5 million, earning yield of 3.58%. With that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Very good. Colleagues, questions for the Treasurer? All right. Hearing none, that report is received and filed. And with that, we'll conclude our Fiscal Committee here at 8:55. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is 9:15 in the morning. We'll go ahead and get our Community Development Committee meeting underway. We've got 11 items before us this morning. So jumping right in with item number 1, we've got a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for Image SFX for special effects at the Van Andel Arena in connection with the Creed Are You Ready tour on November 19th, 2024.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Good morning. Welcome.
Aloha.
Good to see you.
Mostly flames. I got some waterfall effects, but other than that, I'll be there on Thursday to check it out.
All right. Colleagues, any questions, comments? No? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution approving a contract with the Greater Grand Rapids Chamber Foundation through Housing Next in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for housing practices lead services.
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. And we've got Ms. Barron's on this one.
Man, you guys are on the spot.
On the ball. I run a tight ship.
Yes, you do, sir. My apologies. Okay,
That's okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
So we have been utilizing the services of Housing Next for several years at this point. This kind of expands our either capacity or sometimes subject matter expertise to do targeted work in support of our housing agenda, Affordable Housing Fund Board, et cetera.
Okay, great. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner.
I guess is it always going through the Grand Rapids Chamber Foundation and not directly to Housing Next? Is that a
Yes.
reason for that?
I believe it has something to do with the way that Housing Next was set up, but that would be a legal question.
Okay. And then is this specific to like the new 100 and 100 initiative, or is this just general services?
Not specific, just
Okay.
general services. In
Just
fact, yes, they're independently supporting that effort outside of the city's contract.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll go ahead and call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Item number 3 is a resolution approving an extension for the joint endeavor agreement for remonumentation survey services with Kent County.
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. I think we have Mr. Berkman on this one.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Kent County originally received a grant through the state remonumentation program, allowing for the reestablishment of survey monuments placed during the original survey of our state. This resolution extends an agreement that was originally entered into with the county back in 2012. That's since been executed and extended multiple times, allowing for the city's surveyor to perform work that is beneficial to both the city and the county. This proposed extension runs through the end of 2025 with an authorization for 2 additional 1-year extensions on the same terms and conditions if approved by both the city and the county. And then this will reimburse the cost of our surveyor's services, estimated to be $23,635, reimbursed to the Engineering Services Fund.
Okay, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? All right, hearing, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 4 is a resolution approving an increase of $310,690 for 300 Monroe accessibility improvements for a total not to exceed $3,505,760.
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So you've heard about this before, but just a reminder, and for those listening, this project will install an elevator that will access the Monroe level lobby from all 3 parking ramp levels here at the Government Center, new storefront doors from the ramp into the building, and also improve ADA compliant parking spaces within our parking deck. The elevator will be installed where the north stairwell is currently located in our lobby off of the parking ramp doors. Previously, Commission authorized 2 bid packages through our construction manager on this project, which is McGraw Construction, to procure long lead time items associated with the elevator, as well as establish the guaranteed maximum price of the project. The resolution before you today authorizes the construction phase engineering and inspection services, as well as engineering's administration on the project, in an amount of $310,690, which brings the total not to exceed just over that $3.5 million threshold. Project is expected to begin already next week, with some demolition and temporary walls being constructed to enclose areas in the parking ramp and in the building, and last into February of 2026, with multiple phases happening throughout that duration.
Great, thanks. Any questions or comments, colleagues? No? Just out of curiosity, too, I believe this is the second elevator then in the parking ramp. Are there any others planned in the future? Is this kind of wrapping up our project?
Right, so there is the south one that was installed up to the plaza level, and this would be the second. Looking at the Calder Plaza project, potentially there may be an additional one, but that's still in the early planning phases.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 5 is a resolution awarding a contract with High Point Electric Incorporated for city-county complex lighting system upgrades in the amount of $185,788 with a total amount not to exceed $251,820.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So this will upgrade our building lighting control system here at City Hall in Kent County's administration building. The current system's old and no longer supported, in need of replacement. This will bring controls to current standards, reconfigure lighting zones that reflect recent renovations that have occurred, and getting things on the right system. High Point Electric provided the low bid of that amount that was read of just under $186,000, which was under the estimate of $276,000. So seeking your approval to award the contract to High Point with the total not to exceed amount of $251,820 to come from the Facilities Management Fund.
Okay, thanks. Questions or comments, colleagues? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 6 is a resolution accepting easements and authorizing payments at 1661 Monroe Avenue Northwest in connection with construction of Grand River Edges Trail East, Leonard Street to Ann Street in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So this item secures the necessary easements and grading permits from the property located at 1661 Monroe Avenue. This is along the west side of Monroe between the railroad tracks and Ann Street to orient yourselves. This will support construction of the Leonard to Ann Trail, which is planned to occur in 2025. Compensation for the easements and grading permits, as well as legal and administrative fees and associated closing costs, will be in a total amount not to exceed $250,000 coming from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Okay, thanks. Could you speak to maybe, I know that intersection, I remember with the Merrill River cleanup, it's a kind of a dangerous place to cross the street. Is there, I guess, what sort of mobility pieces might be incorporated just to make that a safer place for people to utilize the full length of that trail?
So up at Ann Street, is that where you're thinking? Or?
Yep.
Yeah, so the trail, so if you're north of Ann, where the trail currently exists, you would come south to the north side of Ann Street, head east along the north side of Ann to the traffic signal to cross there, and then the same path on the south side, head back west to where the new trail will be constructed. So to have that safe signal provided, pedestrian crossing.
Got it. Any other questions or comments, colleagues? All right, hearing, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 7 is a resolution approving an increase of $27,000 with Environmental Consulting and Technology Incorporated for Grand River Revitalization for a total amount not to exceed $109,650.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
Through an agreement that was originally approved in November of last year, ECT is the consultant that has prepared our Plan Environmental Assessment, or Plan EA, on the lower reach of our Grand River project. This is necessary for the federal level approvals that we're seeking to allow that project to proceed. The document's been under review with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, or NRCS. Provided that to them in June, and it's now being reviewed. We need to continue ECT services, however, to address anticipated comments from NRCS, as well as support through the public comment period. So this resolution provides an increase in their scope of services and authorizing an additional $27,000 for those services to come from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Okay, thanks. Questions or comments, colleagues? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 8 is a resolution approving an increase in additional phase services with Progressive AE Incorporated for Belknap Park Griff's Ice House refrigeration system improvements in the amount of $3,251,486 with the total amount not to exceed $5,412,065.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So another project that you've seen before, but just some background knowledge for those listening. This project will install a new refrigeration system to make ice at Griff's Ice House located at Belknap Park, replacing the original system that's at end of life. It was original to the building in 1988 and is in need of replacement. In addition, will be added to the southwest corner of the building to house new equipment because we can't take the current equipment offline and additional space is needed. In-floor piping will be replaced as part of that effort, lining the work up to be done in the off-season, which is next year from about mid-April into July. In September, you authorized the initial bid package, which allowed for procurement of the refrigeration system, which has a significant lead time on it. This resolution now sets the guaranteed maximum price for the balance of the work through our construction manager, which is Progressive AE. They will provide these services pursuant to our term agreement in the amount of $3,251,486, with the total not to exceed amount of $5.4 million coming from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Okay, great. Any discussion on this item, colleagues? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. That'll bring us to item number 9, which is a resolution scheduling a public hearing on a request to establish a commercial redevelopment district pursuant to Public Act 255 of 1978 for 2 Fulton Street West LLC at 2 Fulton Street West, which includes units 1A, 1B, and number 2.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. I believe we have Ms. Rainier on this one.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, this is the former UICA building at Center City in downtown. The development team is interested in transforming this existing single-purpose space into a thriving center for entrepreneurship at a total investment of $3.1 million. This is both a request for a public hearing on both the establishment of the district as well as the next item for the certificate. And this is an abatement that is a value of up to 12 years, and we technically don't have a policy around this tool, and so we're trying to be creative and meet the needs of the applicant and the building here. And so because the inclusion plan is achieving 25% overall goals for some subcontractor, we're going to treat this incentive is similar to other abatements and recommend the full 12 years. And then in the coming months, we'll anticipate more of a policy built around this tool itself.
Okay. Yeah, good to hear that.
Does that make sense?
Yep, I think so. Any questions or comments, colleagues? Thoughts?
Just to say that I met with the developers and took a tour and viewed what their plans for the use of that building, and I think it's a great use, repurposing of that building. So,
yeah, that's great to hear. And I know I'm meeting soon with a potential tenant for the space as well, so that will be good to hear their plans. All right, well, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. And then, as was mentioned, item number 10 is related to the same project. This one's a resolution scheduling a public hearing for December 3rd to consider an application for a 12-year commercial facilities exemption certificate for a $3.1 million project to be located at 2 Fulton Street West, filed by 2 Fulton Street West.
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. Any other information on that one?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. That will bring us to our last item, number 11, which is a resolution confirming special assessment nuisance roll number 8790.
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. We've got our city assessor here this morning. Join us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So back in July, the City Commission declared that the special assessment nuisance roll was a necessity. And so we sent out notices August 19th to property owners that were affected by these charges. We're required to have 2 weeks of the roll being open for inspection. So we did that from August 19th through the 24th. And then the City Commission sat as the Board of Review on September 24th to hear appeals. We received 7. And we're recommending that you grant appeal number 5, which was 921 Prospect, in the amount of $60, and recommending confirmation in the amount of $411,821.50, and that includes the reduction of the $60 for that appeal. And then these would be levied with the winter tax statements on December 1st.
Okay, thanks. Colleagues, any questions on this one?
Just a quick one. You said there were 5 appeals?
7 appeals.
7 appeals, and only 1 was approved. Why is that? Or do you
Because
rely,
the
or-
other charges were proceeded according to the ordinances that were required, and the city acted with all good faith and efforts to resolve those.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good question, Commissioner. All right, seeing no other questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that will conclude our scheduled items for this meeting. It's approximately 9:31, so I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we will see everybody back in here at 10 o'clock for Committee of the Whole.
right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting on this lovely Tuesday, November 12th, first Tuesday after our city election. As we kick off today, we have, Commissioners, we have a very full agenda before us today and a full agenda for our 2 p.m. meeting as well. We have Economic Development Project Team in between at 12:30, so those of you who serve with me on that will be back in here at 12:30, and we have an executive session, so I'll call for that executive session before we get to the briefings that we have today, which is one briefing on the water and sewer rate study. And so before I kick off our first item, I'm just going to publicly say to our city clerk and to all of our election workers and volunteers, city staff who step up every single election day to help out, including our attorney's office and many others throughout the city. I just want to say on behalf of myself and this entire commission, thank you. Thank you for your work. We know those are long days. We know many of you didn't get out till the wee hours of the morning after Election Day. I told our city clerk this on Wednesday, how proud I was at how well our elections were run in the city of Grand Rapids. And for, I think, the first time maybe in my entire 20 years serving in public office, city of Grand Rapids, we were some of the very first votes to get in countywide. And so thank you for all of your work. And I know our county clerk as well, Lisa Lyons, worked hard and is a great partner in this space. So I just want to say thank you to her as well. So city clerk, thank you. All right, and that tees us up nicely for our first item before us today. Commissioners, this is a consideration of a resolution electing the appointed officials and authorizing the mayor, myself, to execute the employment agreements for such officials. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, I'll start by saying just a few comments about this item. We have been working on appointed officials contracts for some time. So those of you listening or in the audience today, I'll just give you a brief rundown of the process. So our 4 appointed officials, which include our city clerk, our city treasurer, city attorney, and city manager, they are appointed by this body. Currently, all 4 of them are under a 3-year contract that expires at the end of this year. So several months ago, I put together a committee that included myself, Commissioner Sassi, and Commissioner Robbins, and we started the performance review process. So a 360 review was done on all 4 of our appointed officials. We, as a full body, did a performance review with the appointed officials, and then the subcommittee, the 3 of us worked individually with each appointed official as well as outside counsel. So we bring in outside counsel to work with us to talk about contract renewals. And so there's been a lot of work that has been done by this body and with the appointed officials to get us to where we are today. This was on our agenda last month. It was postponed just so we could review a number of additional issues that had come up, and we had the opportunity to do that. And so now it is back before us today. So with that, I will turn to my colleagues to ask questions or make comments. Commissioner O'Connor?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I just want to say that I appreciate the work of our appointed officials. I've had the privilege of serving with them for the majority of my term here as a commissioner. I think given our form of government that continuity of leadership is important, and they've done a remarkable job of helping guide our city in a professional capacity, and I look forward to their continued tenure here at the city and helping navigate what the next, helping guide the next iteration of this commission into the future.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Goy?
I echo those sentiments too. I've appreciated the professionalism of all of our city, the officials that we elect or appoint, and appreciate their professionalism and also appreciate their wisdom. So I hope that they will continue on to serve our city.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Robbins, who was a part of our subcommittee.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I too appreciate and see the need for continuity of leadership too, and I think continuity of process is important too. And so I appreciated being a part of the process with yourself and Commissioner Sassi, and going throughout the performance review and evaluation with outside counsel, and I'm confident that having that knowledge now will serve the city well too, moving forward once we renegotiate those in the future.
All right. Any other comments, Commissioner Knight?
I am grateful for the opportunity to go through this process again, and I don't know if it's again.
I don't think it's again, but.
I think it's again. Go through the
Foreshadowing, Commissioner.
Scary things. But I also want to express my thoughts and concerns about some of the things that we deal with in the process, and knowing that things don't always have to be the same, and that we have an obligation to make sure that we are doing the best work, not only for our city, but for the people that work within this organization, and that we have a responsibility to hear and to listen and to be bold and make changes where changes are necessary. There are some things that I would like to see in the future changed in this process, and going from 3-year reviews to possibly a 1-year review, and also thinking about something that was mentioned, I believe, in our last commission retreat about doing some type of surveying within the organization on the culture and the climate of the organization itself among staff. I don't think that's something that we've done, at least in the couple years that I have been here, and I think it's something that we all had agreed that it was something that we would like to see to add to the responses and the decisions that we make for this organization moving forward. So thank you very much for that opportunity, and looking forward to moving forward and creating some change within our communities.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. And I think that's a great idea, and trust that the next body that sits around this table can work with our city manager to make that happen. So thank you. Any final, Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the subcommittee with you and Commissioner Robbins. I think that was an example of some good governance in our city, especially again with the transition. I thank all of my colleagues for the additional time in the first October meeting. As you know, I'm the one who put forward that motion, and I appreciate that. To be able to talk through some different things. I think we're in an interesting point. Next year, all of the appointeds are going to be working with individuals, both commissioners and a mayor, who did not appoint them. And I think it's important to say that's okay. There's a reality of transition, and I look forward to working together with all of our elected new colleagues, as well as the appointed colleagues. Transitions don't have to be hard, but they do take time. They take more effort. They take more energy. And they take more trust. And so, on the day after the election, I sent a note to this body and said, everything didn't go the way that maybe people wanted to go, and that's okay. And a recognition that I have a very strong belief in this form of government, the council manager form of government. So I look forward to having, continued robust discussions. I see one of our new colleagues in 25 here in the audience, and so we will have that time tomorrow to be able to review all those pieces. As Commissioner Knight, you said, what are the things that we could talk about in terms of the organization, right? Because we have oversight for 4 individuals on this body. And so I look forward to a strong 2025. I look forward to approving these contracts. I also, just want to say, I hope that we can continue to have these conversations about our contracts in the appropriate arena. It is hard to be told what I'm going to do by others in the community when I have not yet put forth my vote. And so I think that's important to know because I think that is also part of the good government. And I hope that we can continue to build that trust and work forth to make Grand Rapids a place everyone wants to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So before I call the question, I'm going to take a little liberty here because I have been around this table for the appointment of all 4 of our appointed officials and have worked with them for years. And so I'm going to try really hard, commissioners, not to have a whole host of nostalgic moments between now and December 31st. But I do just want to say a couple things. One, I think our city clerk is absolutely exceptional, a leader in our state. I'm so glad I was around the table and was able to vote for you when you stepped into this role. Our city had a number of years where city elections didn't go so well, and there wasn't a lot of faith in some of our processes. And so I really appreciate your expertise, Joel, and all your work. Our city treasurer, John Glabinski, he's out of town today, but I'm going to give him a shout out. He has worked in this city for a long time, served under Al Mooney, our prior treasurer, loves this community with all of his heart. And at times he's a little too conservative in his projections for me, but I trust him and I know that he always has this city at the heart of all of his decisions. Our city attorney is a gem, a leader in our state. Many of you may not know this, but before she stepped into the role as city attorney, our city attorney's office had gone through a number of transitions and actually had a number of issues that needed to be addressed. And she stepped in during a very hard time and really turned that entire department around. I would say we have the best city attorney's office in the entire state of Michigan because of her leadership, her team, her strategic thinking, and quite frankly, her willingness to make hard decisions. Again, she loves the city and it shows in everything she does. And then our city manager, who I've had the opportunity to work side by side with, even before being mayor, I got to know him when Austin was a part of the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. City of Grand Rapids is one of 5 cities that was a part of that initiative. And I was really grateful when he threw his name in to serve as our city manager. And one thing that I've always appreciated about him is he is action-oriented. And one of the things that he has done is create a strategic plan for the city with clear objectives and goals and measurables and data and metrics, something that the city did not have before he was here. And if you look at the impact of that work, I think not just the city team, but really everyone around this table should be proud of the progress that we've made. Some of that progress we're going to hear tomorrow during our retreat. But the fact that we went from talking about things to actually doing things is a testament to his leadership. So I'm glad that while I am mayor still, I get to vote on the renewal of these contracts. And I have great faith in the 4 people, our 4 appointed officials, to help the next mayor and the city commission to continue to move things forward. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It carries. Thank you, commissioners. Next item, in, again, preparing for next year, this, if I was still mayor, this would be for me, but I'm not. We have a new mayor-elect. So this is a resolution approving a request for the mayor-elect, which is David LeGrand, to travel to Washington, D.C. to attend the U.S. Conference of Mayors winter meeting, as well as the Mayor's Innovation Project winter meeting. Those 2 are back-to-back, January 14th to 20th in 2025, and then also the Mackinac Policy Conference, which takes place from May 27th through the 30th. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. As soon as these are approved, commissioners, Laura Olson will work on getting the mayor-elect registered for these conferences. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution setting November 19th, 2024 as the date to hold a public hearing on the bridge to our future, our Grand Rapids Community Master Plan. Can I get a motion?
Move. Support.
All right, moved and supported. So this public hearing would be back before us on the 19th. We have Ms. Turkelson here and her team to tell us about this. I believe there's a brief presentation and update. Some of this will be redundant, things we've already seen, but it's a good reminder to the entire community. This is a very important process that we have been in the throes of for almost 2 years.
It's been a little longer than that, but yes. So I am thrilled to be before you today requesting, we are at the time where we can request a public hearing on the proposed community master plan. This has been a very exciting process. We've operated with a level of intention that I think has yielded some really great results, both in confidence in the process, as well as getting input from community members that have historically not participated in planning processes. And so before you is a request to set the community master plan public hearing for November 19th. The request or the recommendation does come before you from a unanimous vote by the City Planning Commission. And so Mr. Paul Roseboom, the chair, fearless leader of our Planning Commission, has a few words, and then I will kick off the more formal presentation, which, yes, might be or should look familiar to all of you, but for the benefit of the community, we want to make sure that we're clear about what we're doing here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Paul, welcome, and I'm going to add my thanks to you for your service and all of the extra work that you have taken on during your time serving on our Planning Commission.
Certainly, and thank you for your service to the city, all of you. The Planning Commission does appreciate your support, and what we heard from you was engagement was a huge item for our agenda, and I believe that the process that was used, both the selection of the consultant team, the selection of the steering committee, all worked towards that end. I believe that we did a good job of, as Kristen said, trying to engage all the voices in the city that we could. I think the result is a plan that is a solid framework, maybe less of a blueprint in that it's a little higher level than our previous one, but I think the setup is good for the city as we are a mature city in terms of being built out. We're not turning over farm fields into subdivisions. Where we are at is how to make our already built out city as good as it can be for all who work and live there. So with that, again, thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so for today, we have a brief presentation where we want to review with you the process that we went through, as well as the organization of the plan itself, and ultimately land with a request with the resolution to set the public hearing. This has been the timeline for the entire project, and you'll note my candor earlier. We did actually kick this off in early 2020 with the pre-planning phase where we engaged community on the 2002 master plan, what's working, what's not, what are areas we need to focus on, and then of course the formal process through 2022 through where we are today, which is in the adoption phase. And then next up, after I take a bit of a deep breath, will be, of course, the implementation, and large part of that will be the update of the zoning ordinance. In terms of the adoption process, we've been very intentional or strategic in how we moved forward, starting with a joint meeting with the Planning Commission back in July, and really making sure that we were aligned with the document in its state at that time. There was a number of back and forths between the Planning Commission and the City Commission, moving from a high-level briefing where we spent hours with the Planning Commission reviewing the detail, the content, and then brought before you a higher level briefing where we provided you with a summary and also a more detailed review of what the Planning Commission's concerns were. Hopefully you found that to be extremely effective, and I think it also helped build a lot of confidence both with the City Commission and the Planning Commission. You can see the next steps for November and December are to set the public hearing, of course, host the public hearing on the 19th, and then move forward with adoption in December, whether that's the 3rd or the 17th. To be determined. So I always start with this slide just to make sure we level set. We know that there's a lot of needs and wants in the community, and it's really important, but this particular document really guides future growth and development of our land use. So we know that there's a lot of other great, important documents that the city has in place. My colleagues in economic development, for example, had their strategic plan, and I always look at this as a puzzle piece. Planning has a really important piece, but there's other pieces that other departments hold that help fulfill the needs and the vision of the entire community. So making sure we tie those together. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Leila Aslani, who has served as the project manager, to discuss that pre-planning phase that took place back in 2020. And then our community consultants planning next will provide with a little bit more detail on the process. And then on the 19th, we'll rejoin you and have a presentation on the content itself.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning. So the pre-planning phase was, like Kristen said, back in 2020. We hired people from neighborhood organizations, other nonprofits throughout the city, and then we had a couple just interested residents who heard about it and wanted to engage their communities and their friends. Over 530 people participated. They read the master plan, the 2002 plan, in chunks, and they held 4 meetings, one for each part of the plan. and discussed what was working, what wasn't working, and what needed to change for the next one. And then, the pandemic happened, so they had to host meetings virtually, distanced outside. Here's a picture of a masked and outside meeting. They did a great job adapting to that. And Sarah's going to cover a little bit more about what topics emerged, about what needed to change for the next plan. And then we took all of that information. We got a lot of great information from them, and we used that to write the request for proposals and also to form the steering committee. So their input was really invaluable for getting us to the place we are today. And with that, I'll turn it over to our consultant, Sarah Bongiorno, who's going to go through the rest of the engagement process.
Great. Thanks, Layla. Good to be with you this morning. So as Layla said, I'm going to review our process's 4 rounds of engagement. Again, our goal was to provide equitable, inclusive, and fun engagement. The engagement moved from more generative types of activities and questions, so more brainstorming and open-ended questions, to responsive towards the end, where we're asking folks to really provide feedback and direction on plan content. And again, the engagement was focused on the topics within the Community Master Plan purview, and we really tried to engage people at the neighborhood level, again, then understanding what is most important to them, what we need to address, and then roll that up into higher level recommendations. We used a number of different engagement techniques throughout this process, from in-person workshops to virtual meetings. We had meetings in a box and pop-up engagement at different community events, one-on-one interviews and stakeholder interviews, and we also have some focused engagement around youth and older adults, and we also had online engagement. So as Layla mentioned, the steering committee was a very important part and component of this process. They were appointed by the mayor with input from city commission and staff, but they really advocated throughout this whole process for the planning process, for the community outreach. They really provided really important guidance for us as we went through and developed the engagement process to make sure that we were able to attract and engage as many people as we could throughout the process. They represented all 3 city wards and a variety of Grand Rapids businesses and nonprofit organizations. The community connectors and neighborhood organizations also represented a very important component. They really helped ensure that we had representative engagement across the city. They really took the engagement out into community, meeting with small groups within their neighborhoods. They helped make sure that we were reaching people that may not come through a typical public meeting or through an online engagement. So it really helped us understand cultural nuances and insights into community. So now I'm going to review each of our 4 rounds of engagement. So our first round, our getting started round, if you remember, we did launch parties in each of the 3 wards. This was really to introduce the public to the planning process, and it also provided a forum for discussion of possible project themes and if they still resonated. So again, taking what we learned from that pre-planning phase that Layla mentioned and really testing some of the topic areas and the focuses for the plan. We also wanted to generate excitement about the future of Grand Rapids. We conducted these launch parties in each of the 3 wards. We also had a meeting in a box that our community connectors took out into community. They also conducted one-on-one interviews, and this engagement ran February to March of 2023. For our round 2, Shaping the Future round, again, this is an iterative process, so the types of activities and the input that we gathered in the first round really helped us then shape a vision, value threads, and the goal areas and focuses for the plan. So we were testing those elements back with the community in round 2. We conducted an engagement in a variety of formats again. We had an in-person workshop. We had presence at the Neighborhood Summit. Our community connectors did move-in talks, which I think were really a great way to get out in community. They hosted small groups and they moved throughout their neighborhoods, telling stories about the history of the neighborhood, observing what was there, happening today on the ground, and then envisioning a little bit about what they wanted for the future. We also attended some youth camps and also had an online component as well. This ran from spring, May and through the summer, July of 2023. Our round 3, visualizing the future round, this is where we really started bringing plan content back to out to the community. So it focused on the big ideas of the plan and also introduced the plan structure or the goals for the plan. Again, we went back to our 3 workshops in each of the wards. Our community connectors hosted community conversations as well out in community. And again, this ran November of 2023, about this time last year, through February of 2024. And finally, round 4, just this past spring, this is where we really brought forth the draft recommendations by the chapter structure to collect feedback. And we also presented the plans for the area-specific work that was also a part of this process. Again, we conducted the 3 workshops across the 3 wards. Our community conductors, again, community connectors were also out in the community and in the neighborhoods conducting conversations and also understanding how those value threads that we established back in the first round were really being seen throughout the plan, represented throughout the plan recommendations. So it was kind of a checks and balances at that point. So this ran from late spring through June of 2024. So we're really pleased with the overall engagement throughout this process. You can see that almost 4,800 people participated. Again, we conducted engagement in a variety of formats. We heard from people living across the city. And again, it ended up being about a 4-year engagement process. So I appreciate those people really stuck in and continued to engage, because that's a long time, but so important. So I'm going to go through now some of our demographic slides. If you've seen some of these presentations when I've done the updates before, this will look familiar, but the teal bar is the percentage of participants, again, across the entire process, and the pink line represents the U.S. Census percentage for that particular group within the city. So you can see we hit our metrics from a race standpoint, which we're really proud of that. Also, the Hispanic community too, from an ethnicity standpoint. The age cohorts here, we did really good with the youth and a lot of the other age cohorts. We did fall a little short on the 18 to 24, but I think I've said this before, that's a very hard age group to engage, and we did get 6%, and that was a very intentional outreach to that age group through GRCC and GVSU and others. So again, that's something we see nationally across all the communities. That's a hard group to get, and while we didn't meet our metric, we did get 6% with that one. Gender split, again, looks good, very good. Education, again, we worked really hard to close some of those gaps. The high school diploma or equivalent and some college no degree was a little lower, although we did move those up throughout the process. And again, that some college no degree, the 15% moved closer to that 20% target, but those were a couple of the gaps we also saw throughout the process. And again, good representation across the wards, so we feel good about that. Now I'm going to ask my colleague Emily to come up and share about the plan framework.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. So through all of this engagement, we are really working towards a plan framework that would be representative of the ideas that we were hearing. And so what you see in front of you is ultimately the structure of the plan. It starts with the community vision statement, which is intended to be an expression of the community's future. And this was tested through round 2 of public engagement and really drives sort of everything from that point forward. You'll see the community value threads woven throughout the plan chapters. These values reflect at a high level what the community cares about. And many of these reflect some of the early issues that were identified in pre-planning and were identified in the request for proposal well before we were involved in this process. So these are very intentionally brought forward as primary issues to be addressed. So equity, safety, vibrancy, culture, and sustainability don't have their own chapters, but instead are represented in each. The community goal areas are the plan structure chapters. So each goal is a desired outcome and represents one chapter of the plan. Great neighborhoods, vital business districts, strong economy, balanced mobility, and desirable development character, each of which has a statement that is reinforced through objectives or strategic direction and the recommendations under each objective, which are the specific projects, policies, and programs that are intended to achieve those outcomes within the plan chapter. And I believe that that is the setup for sort of the next iteration where we'll go into additional detail on the content, but this is the structure that you'll see as you read through.
Thank you.
So thank you for your time this morning. The resolution is before you. The only consideration I would just flag for your attention is that unlike other Planning Commission recommendations that come before you, Community Master Plan and the process legally is a little bit unique in that the City Commission would accept the document in whole, or if there were concerns, it would be remanded back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. So it's not an in whole or in part, unlike other recommendations that come before you. Certainly between now and the public hearing, if there are questions or needing some support, please feel free to send those questions probably through the city manager, and me and my staff will be happy to provide those answers so that you feel comfortable come the 19th. So thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll turn to my colleagues. Again, this is to set the public hearing, even though we've had significant engagement in this process for several months, if not years. So I'll turn to my colleagues. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries, and I'm going to say thank you again to everyone who's worked so hard, including Paul for your leadership on our Planning Commission and all of our planning commissioners. Thank you. All right, Commissioners, that will take us to our next item. This is a resolution establishing a neighborhood enterprise zone for the Talbot Bridge LLC project, which is located at 648 Bridge Street Northwest. I believe we have Ms. Renero, who is the Director of our Economic Development Department, here to share some information, although this item, Commissioners, we have had a public hearing on, and I know we're quite familiar with it. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support. All right, moved and supported. Ms. Renero?
Good morning, thank you. Yes, this is a project in the Bridge Street corridor, demolishing the old grocery store, putting up a new construction 5-story building with 148 apartments and integrated parking. Today, we're looking at the NEZ, and the years around that award are maximum at 15 years because of their priorities around transit-oriented development, as well as their inclusion plan aspirational goals. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We've all gotten to know Ryan Talbot, and he's been active in the Creston neighborhood and has worked closely with neighbors. It's good to see a project now on Bridge Street in a piece of property that's been underutilized for quite some time. I know our first ward commissioners have been active in this as well. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm excited about this project and the redevelopment. I just want to say thank you to Ms. Renero and Ms. Turkelson for their engagement with one of the neighboring property owners who just had some concerns, but they've been diligent in trying to work with the developer and them to address those. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. All right, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to a companion item here, resolution establishing a neighborhood enterprise zone for the 385 Leonard Street. I shouldn't say companion, this is a separate project. For the 385 Leonard Street Northeast redevelopment project located at 385 Leonard Street Northeast. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Again, we are all pretty familiar with this project. It's in the second ward, and we had a public hearing related to it. I'll turn it over to Ms. Renero to share with us any additional details.
Just to reiterate, the very similar to the last project, new construction, 5 stories, 181 apartments, and again, the maximum NEZ award of 15 years because of their transit-oriented development priorities and inclusion aspirational goals.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to a resolution approving a second amendment to conditional transfer property agreement pursuant to Public Act 425 of 1984 with the City of Walker for the Walker View Development Project. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Again, we have Ms. Renero. This is a longtime partnership we've had with Walker with the redevelopment of this important space.
Yes, and just to jog the memories on what this is. So this is an arrangement with the City of Walker, 425 agreement, conditional transfer property for economic development purposes. Agreement was initially put in place in 2016. It was amended in 18 and is being requested for a second amendment now to expand the term and increase the dollars amount for reimbursement to the tune of $290,400. With the new term ending an additional 3 years on top of what was already approved, so 2042 being that new expiration. Following today, we anticipate an amendment to the Brownfield Plan in a similar fashion as far as the term and the amount of investment.
Great, thank you. Good to see this 425 doing what we had hoped it would do when we
Yes.
passed it all those years ago, so thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution to adopt the 2025 City Commission meeting schedule. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. So Commissioners, all of you have a copy of the proposed meeting schedule for 2025. I know that that's been reviewed also by Mayor-elect as well as appointed officials. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. For those of you who will continue to be around this table next year, the Outlook invites for those meetings will go out shortly so that you can make sure that you have them all on your schedules. All right, next one is a resolution approving the restated operating agreement between the City of Grand Rapids, Kent County, and the Kent County Convention and Arena Authority and the Downtown Development Authority regarding the operation of certain facilities within the City of Grand Rapids. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. We have Ms. Behrens here with us today to tell us about this item. She's been working on behalf of the City of Grand Rapids on this item along with the next two. Ms. Behrens?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and with your forbearance, these comments would set the stage for all three actions. So just wanted to update the Commission generally on this soccer stadium civic asset. This is a conversation that has been in front of the Commission and the community more broadly for quite some time. We'll just go back to the more recent history of the spring of this year when Grand Action 2.0 submitted their transformational or received approval from the city for the transformational brownfields proposal that included both the amphitheater and the soccer stadium under a single application. So you can see both of those facilities here. I do want to pause for just a moment to provide some updates with respect to the amphitheater portion of that transformational project. That is, if you've been down Market Avenue, well underway in construction. And I wanted to highlight some of the work that Grand Action has been doing in partnership with their contractor, particularly with respect to the Commission's inclusion plan interests and their commitments, which I'm sure will carry forward into the soccer stadium. So at the time of the TBP application, there was a commitment to include $6 million of inclusive contracting in that amphitheater portion of the project. They have actually, at this point, achieved $9.4 million. A lot of creativity in the way that they have engaged the community, both through outreach with partners, including Construction Allies in Action, Michigan Minority Contracting Association, Black Voices at the River, but also using strategies like joint ventures, partnerships, mentoring relationships, and other connections to ensure that there are representation for MLBE and disadvantaged contractors in at least 12 of the prime contracts. Also a lot of work on the labor front. So the more creative or that caught my attention was some work they've done with both the West Michigan Contractors Institute and Ferris and GVSU to actually allow students on the site and do some hands-on learning lab. And the payroll for the project does reflect a lot of local hiring. So I just wanted to hit some of those notes. Grand Action with Pioneer has been very creative in the way they're trying to accomplish the commitments, and know some of that learning will carry forward into the soccer stadium. So moving on to the stadium, just to refresh everybody's memory, again, part of the TBP application, the image on the left shows the current state with the YMCA building there at the bottom end of the graphic. You see the surface parking running all along 131 is really where the stadium will go, and partnership with YMCA allows them to use part of that lot as well, with some replacement parking at the GVSU lot. So the overall renderings are from the spring, so there may be changes, just a caveat to that. There may be changes in the actual execution, but wanted to provide an overview of how that will look adjacent to the freeway there. 8,500 seats, will house a professional soccer team. And like the amphitheater, it is anticipated that there will be housing adjacent to this facility as well. And again, Grand Action and the CAA continue to find residential partners for that portion of the TBP. Just a few other details. The city and Kent County had entered into an MOU last fall outlining a number of conditions that would be necessary in order for those bodies to consider adding soccer as a facility managed by the Grand Rapids Kent County Convention and Arena Authority, affectionately known as the CAA. Those conditions have been met. Probably of significant interest is to ensure that the capital construction costs and stack are aligning well. So you see some details there. Grand Action continues to raise funds with a campaign right now to cover the private donation portion of that. But the steps in front of you today and that were in front of the County Commission last week will allow for a spring 2025 construction start with games anticipated in 2027. So in front of you today are three action items. There was also a related action on the Fiscal Committee agenda related to the notice of intent to issue debt in alignment with these three actions. So the first is to approve an amendment to approve a restated operating agreement for the CAA. So that document is something that the city and the county and the CAA are all signatories to. It describes generally high level how the CAA will operate the civic facilities that are within their charge. So now it's currently the agreement covers Van Andel Arena, DeVos Place, and the Acrisure Amphitheater. The action in front of you today would add soccer as one of those allowed facilities, so it brings them up to 4 facilities, and also just modernizes the agreement. So it was originally drafted in 2000. Lots of the things that were in the agreement have been completed. There's some outdated references and some other things. So we are taking the opportunity to clean up that document as well and streamline it a little bit. The amendments of note are there in terms of adding the soccer stadium, defining more precisely some of the reserves that are required to ensure that fiscal responsibility remains at the forefront as it has, as the CAA has operated those facilities to date, and then establishes what we refer to as the waterfall, which is a series of protections for the city and the county to ensure that there are always adequate resources to cover the expenses of operating those 4 facilities. The second item in front of you today is to then approve a restated agreement for use of lodging excise tax with Kent County. So this is really the linchpin that allows the city to proceed with issuing the debt that is anticipated and required for that capital stack that I shared on the prior slide. The city and county have been asked to support from this standpoint $100 million worth of the capital costs of that facility. This is similar to the arrangement that was approved by the commission in September associated with the Acrisure Amphitheater. And so this agreement really updates the contract that was originally brought forward then to support Acrisure to add the soccer stadium. So this one agreement will then cover the county's commitment to provide the hotel motel tax support to pay back annual debt service on those 2 tranches of debt. So first the 27.5 for Acrisure Amphitheater, and now the up to 100.5 for million for the soccer stadium. Many of the provisions remain the same as we outlined in September, but again, it commits the county to providing the 3% 3% hotel motel tax that they recently added to the overall hotel motel tax, and then establishes again another waterfall of other sources to protect any particular year where those receipts may be not enough to cover the annual debt service, including some reserve accounts, so debt reserve account, debt service accounts that would be within the city's control and that would be funded at the level of approximately 1.5 times annual debt service would remain available throughout the life of these bonds for the city to cover any particular shortfall. The notice of intent then is related to that and was in front of the Fiscal Committee and approved by that body earlier this morning. And the final action in front of you today then is to approve certain actions by the CAA. So the CAA is a creature of state law that is set up by Kent County and the City of Grand Rapids. Those two bodies retained certain authority. One of those authorities, that called the reserve authorities, was to approve any contract more than 5 years. So the CAA has to inform both commissions and seek consent to entering into any such contract. So there are two of those for you to approve today. One is the signature on that restated operating agreement that I described. And the second is to approve the CAA entering into an agreement with Kent County to actually fund the debt reserve and debt service accounts that I just alluded to. So in order to keep the construction of the soccer stadium on the timeline described, the hotel motel tax receipts from that 3% will come in over time, and projections were included in your packet, but don't allow for the accumulation of adequate funds to fund those debt reserve and debt service accounts at the time we would be issuing the debt. So the CAA is providing cash under this agreement in order for those accounts to be funded at the time that we would actually be issuing the debt service. So that is the final action in front of you today. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I'm going to add just a few comments, and then I'll turn to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. So I was sitting here reflecting on how long ago it was that I sat in a room at the unveiling of the destination asset study. It was early in my first term as mayor and had a whole host of ideas, big ideas for our city, with the goal of figuring out how we continue to invest in significant projects to stay competitive, to continue to move our city forward, and then also to meet some of the goals laid out also in the GR Forward plan. So a lot of work has happened over the past several years in our city to move these projects forward. And I want to take this opportunity. I know we have some of our community partners in the room today. But, you know, when that destination asset study was unveiled, you know, many of us got together afterwards and we had no idea how we were going to make it happen, but we knew that the data indicated that we needed to continue to invest in significant projects if we were going to continue on the trajectory that was started decades ago with Grand Action 1.0. And so I want to say thanks to everyone on the Grand Action 2.0 team. Kara's here with us today. Kara Wood, I think she was Economic Development Director of our city when that destination asset study was done. But also our partners at the CAA and the Downtown Development Authority, all of the private investors, supporters, the foundations locally that have stepped up, the state of Michigan, who early on committed millions of dollars to these projects, also helped make changes to legislation to enable some of the things that we've been able to take advantage of. A lot of work has been done to get us to where we are today. I was grateful. I was at the Fiscal Committee at the county last week. Really grateful for the County Commission to have supported these resolutions last week. They've been a huge, significant partner in this space for decades, and they recognize the impact that projects such as this will have, not just on our county, but our entire region. And then I'm really delighted to see the update on our inclusion plan and that we are already exceeding our goals. I anticipate that will continue because we have partners who are really committed to that. So just want to say thank you to that as well. And so with that, I will turn it to my colleagues. You know, I'll also say one other thing publicly, only because my colleagues around this table know I'm a little bit of a data person. I like numbers. But I also want to remind everyone, for the lodging tax, the excise tax, I think it's important to note that it passed overwhelmingly in our city, in every single ward. Second ward, almost just over 60% of the vote in support of the excise lodging tax, in support of both the amphitheater and the soccer stadium. So I think that was a pretty loud message from the people that all of us represent in the city, that they too are, the majority of the people we represent are really excited about these projects. So with that, I'll turn it to my colleagues to see if they have any questions or comments. Again, we have 3 resolutions before us. You can speak to any of them, since Deputy City Manager referenced all of them in her presentation, and then I'll go through the resolutions. Commissioners, questions? All right. Commissioner Sassi?
Thanks for the presentation, and thanks for providing that overview. So, history lesson, whatever by you, before we get down, right? Yeah, there'll be a test at the end. But no, I wanted to say, I think sometimes we get these presentations and the detail is there, and so there might not be a lot of questions, and that doesn't mean that it's not, because projects like these aren't important, or that, we're hearing from constituents. And I just wanted to say I appreciate the continued, I think this was in an EDPT conversation we had, just, continued conversations about like traffic management and safety, and like how do we integrate our micromobility. So I think sometimes we're seeing one piece of a project, which is, right, the debt issuance and these agreements that have happened, with the county. And we were meeting with City Manager, Commissioner Knight and I, when you came in last week. And so, I think this is just like another example, one of those finish lines, but know that we are continuing those conversations. There's a lot of intent, as you mentioned, Kara and the team. How do all these things work together, work inside the city services that we have? So I'll look forward to that continued conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Any final questions? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to 2 more companion items. Item number 9, resolution approving an update and restated agreement with Kent County to allocate sufficient revenue from the lodging excise tax fund to cover principal and interest payments on both the $27.5 million bond for the amphitheater and $100.5 million bond for the soccer stadium.
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any final questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. And then the last item is a resolution authorizing the Grand Rapids Kent County Convention Arena Authority to enter into agreement regarding the payment of certain sums to create a reserve account in support of the amphitheater and soccer stadium. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any final questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, before we get to the briefing today, what I'd like to do is call the question for an executive session. So we do have an executive session. We will have that immediately after Committee of the Whole. And this is to discuss pending litigation. We will do this down in the Law Library, correct, City Attorney? Law Library?
Yes.
All right, so can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Support. All right, moved and supported, and this is a voice vote. I'll start down here with Commissioner Perdue.
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi? Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
And Commissioner Goy.
Yes.
All right, and I am a yes. So Commissioners, we will have a briefing, which I will introduce momentarily, but then right after that, we'll go down to Law Library, and then those of us on EDPT will be back in here at 12:30. All right, with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager to tell us about the briefing that we have before us today.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Today we want to share with you the preliminary rate study for the water system, and our water systems rate analyst, Mr. Ty Verbruge, is here, and we'll cover both operational and capital considerations as we look forward to set the rates for our regional system. And I want to remind us, as we, not very many cities supply water for both their community and the region. And I think we do an exceptional job of maintaining system reliability throughout the year, given the vast region that we have geographically to cover and provide water and wastewater services for. So with that, Mr. Verbruge.
Thank you, City Manager. Hi,
Good morning,
welcome.
Commissioners. Thank you for the introduction, City Manager. My name is Ty Verbrugge. I'm the Utility Financial Officer here for the City of Grand Rapids, and today I'm going to walk you through the 2024 Water and Sewer Rate Study. As you can see, this is our 48th time doing this, so some of this information may be familiar to you, but as always, we want to walk through the methodologies just so you have a full understanding of how we're arriving at these rates. And before I begin, I do just want to say a quick thank you to my staff as well as the teams out at the Water and Sewer Departments. A lot of data goes into this, so I appreciate all the assistance. Now, when we talk about setting water and sewer rates, we're really looking at what is the revenue requirement. How much revenue do these systems need to collect from their rates in order to maintain operations, purchase assets, pay off debt? If that revenue requirement goes up year over year, then we have to raise rates. If that number were to go down, we would lower rates. So we're trying to calculate the revenue requirement. And so there are a lot of building blocks that go into this. First, we look at expenses. How much does it cost to operate and maintain the plants, the collection system, the distribution system? What about our fixed assets? So those are the lines that we put in the ground, the equipment, the machinery, all of those get depreciated over time. And then we also have to collect a return on investment on all of our assets and service. And then there are miscellaneous expenses, paying back debt, payback agreements with developers. Those miscellaneous expenses also get built into that revenue requirement. Then we look at other revenues. Every dollar that we collect from a different source is one fewer dollar that we need to collect through our rates. So we're talking about revenue from natural gas sales from the biodigester, meter connection fees, penalty revenue from late fees. Those get applied to rates through the city and customer community circuit breaker, the quadruple CB. It's a mouthful. We'll talk about that in a few slides. But those revenues all help reduce that revenue requirement. And then lastly, the last piece that we look at is build volume. How much water and sewer do we expect people to use in an average year? If we expect higher consumption, we can charge less per unit. So all of those factors go into calculating that revenue requirement. Now, as City Manager mentioned, our system does serve more than just the City of Grand Rapids. We partner with 11 other communities, and those communities can be separated into two groups. Retail communities, where we maintain their assets and we bill their customers directly, and wholesale communities, where we bill the community as a whole, they maintain their own assets, and then they bill their customers directly. And there are differences in how the rates are calculated for those two different groups. And the reason I bring this up is because there are two sets of numbers that we want to focus on here. At the bottom there, you can see circled in red are the system-wide rate increases. So for this is across all communities. The average increase for water this year, we're looking at 2.8%, and the average rate increase for sewer is 2.91%. If we're just looking at the City of Grand Rapids, the water increase is 4.34% and the sewer increase is 2.15%. Every community has its own different rate increase or decrease. Now, how does that fit into the context here? So if we look at the last 15 years, this is how rates have changed every year in the last 15 years. And you can see 2024 in that gray bar down at the bottom, as well as the average rate increase or decrease every year. So the average increase is about 1.6% for water and a little over 2% for sewer. So we're close to that. And the reason why I want to point this out is because some communities don't do rate changes every year. And what ends up happening when you do it that way is you have bigger spikes. And so we like to spread out these rate increases so they're smaller, but we do it annually. And I also want to point out that the rate of inflation for the past year, the past 12 months through September 2024, was a little over 3%. So our system-wide rate increases are a little bit under the rate of inflation this year. Now, what exactly drove these rates? Where did we arrive? How did we arrive at these numbers? So first, looking at water, there was no one major driver here. There were a couple of smaller drivers. So operational costs, you have personnel costs, wage increases, staffing up. But the biggest thing on water was private lead line replacements. So we're mandated by the state to replace all the lead lines in the city. And private lead lines are the parts of the system that go under someone's yard that connect from the street to their home. Now, those aren't assets owned by the city, so we don't get to capitalize them and break out that cost across 75 years. We have to eat that cost up front. So they have a bigger impact on our rates. We have seen some supply costs stabilize, so our chemical costs have been skyrocketing in the past few years, but we have seen those settle down in the past year, which is partially why this year's rate increase is smaller than maybe it has been in some of the past years. We've seen some of those costs settle down. Water did put into service almost $22 million worth of new assets this year, which is a lot. Most of that is, again, we're taking out these lead lines and we're replacing them with brand new water mains. If they're public, if they're under the street, those public assets we can depreciate over time, and so it has a smaller impact on rates because we get to spread it out more. And then finally, the last upward pressure on water's rates was reduced consumption. People have been using less water, and as that consumption drops, that has an upward pressure on our rates. We did have some things working in our favor, though, on water side. So integrated connection fees, that's when, as developers build out new areas and we connect more customers to the system, that additional revenue helps reduce that revenue requirement and has a downward pressure on our rates. And so that negative 0.81% is due to all those new connection fees, as well as the application of some of those penalty revenues. And that's how we arrive at 2.8% for water. Now on the sewer side, the story is much the same, but there's really only one big driver on the sewer side, and that's operational costs. And the big thing here is that we are overhauling the entire SCADA infrastructure. This was an item that went before Fiscal Committee earlier today. We're trying to modernize our IT system, our data collection, our monitoring, which is really important for safety and security of these utilities. And then there were a bunch of things working in our favor, keeping rates from getting too high here. So I mentioned water put into service $22 million worth of assets. Sewer put into service a little under $7 million. And that's mostly because sewer doesn't have to replace lead lines. So they put in service a lot fewer assets, and we got some pretty significant private contributions on work that we've already done, specifically relating to sewer mains in the Market Avenue area. There's also was natural gas revenue. The biodigester, this fiscal year 2024, was the first full year that they've been selling RINs credits. We cleared $3 million in revenue there, and so that helps reduce how much revenue we need to collect from rates. We are tempering our expectations there because of changing regulatory rules. We do expect a temporary reduction in those sales, but we hope to stabilize that in the next year as we figure out new buyers and as we adjust to those new regulations. And then lastly, and this is kind of a weird thing, build volume for sewer actually went down, but because so many new customers connected to the system, the additional connection revenues more than offset the decline in consumption. And so that extra revenue actually, again, had a downward pressure on sewer's rates. Now, I keep talking about build volume. This is just a closer look at how build volume has changed over time. You can see on the left-hand side that water volume is actually down almost 3% year over year. But we don't want to look at year over year because there's so much that can fluctuate from one year to another, right? It could be a particularly dry summer or a particularly wet summer. So instead, we use a 3-year average to smooth this out so that we're not overreacting in our rates. And so when you look at that 3-year average, water was only down about 0.69%. And the story is the same on the sewer side, down 3.77% year over year. But when you look at the 3-year average, it was almost negligible. It was down 0.06%. Now, I do want to take a couple minutes to talk about affordability. So we have 2 different programs. We have one that's for assistance for individuals that need help paying their bills. That's the individual circuit breaker. We set aside money for the ICB that goes to the Kent County Community Action Group, and they distribute those funds to individuals that need help. And then there's the city and customer community circuit breaker, that quadruple CB. So that is money that gets set aside to help reduce rates across an entire community. And so the way that works is if an individual community has a higher rate increase than the system average, they receive some of those funds to bring their rate increase down closer to the average. So like I mentioned, for example, that water system-wide average increase is 2.8%. If a community is going up by 4%, they would receive some of those funds to get them closer to 2.8, so that every community is relatively close together. And all of this money comes from late fee revenues collected from retail communities. So 12.5% of late fees go into the individual circuit breaker, and the other 87.5% go into the quadruple CB. Now, looking at the individual assistance program, so in fiscal year 24, we collected $1.2 million in penalty revenues, so 12.5% of that, $153,000, plus we kick in $80,000 of non-operating revenue. This is from renting out water facilities like Cold Brook or water towers, and that gives us our funding for this assistance program. So for next year, we're looking at $233,000 of assistance available for households that need help. Now, if we look at last year's rate study, we set aside $225,000. And through September of this year, so through 3/4 of this year, we've dispersed a little over 1/3 of those funds. And so that tells us two things. It tells us, one, that there is demand for this. There are people that need assistance, and we are able to provide it. But two, we are also more than funding this. There's plenty of funds available, so no one's being turned away because of inadequate funding. And any dollars that do not get used in a given year get rolled into reducing rates for everybody the following year. And then again, looking at that quadruple CB, we start with the same bucket of penalty revenue. They get 87.5% of it. That's about $1 million. And that full $1 million was applied across our retail communities to help bring rates down more in line with the system average. I think almost every retail community received some of those funds. You should have this sheet in your packet as well. This shows the average quarterly household bill among our retail communities and how it's set to change from 2024 to 2025. So we're going to focus mostly on Grand Rapids at the top there. You can see that in 2024, the average household bill for a quarter was $262 for both water and sewer combined. In 2025, with these rate increases, it would be closer to $270. So about an $8 increase per quarter. Now, how does that compare to our peers? So it's good to know how much the average household is charged per quarter, but we want to see how we compare to other cities that are similar to us, both in population size, but also in geography and availability of water. So my staff looked at 8 other cities within the Midwest for the most part, and as you can see, we have the lowest rates of these cities. Now, this is based on average consumption, so this is based on, if the average household in Grand Rapids, if they consume that same amount of water in one of these other cities, what would their bill be? And they would have the lowest rates here in the city of Grand Rapids. And then finally, I just want to wrap up by going over the timeline here. So last week, I presented this to the Utility Advisory Board. That's the group of our partner communities. That kicks off a 30-day comment period where they can come to me and say, hey, we want to make a contribution to buy down our rates. We have issues with this methodology. We have questions. They've got 30 days for that. Today, I'm presenting to the commission. That kicks off a 20-day public comment period. So for the next 20 days, if any citizens have questions or concerns, they can reach out to us. They can email the city at info@grcity.us, or they can come to the city clerk's office, or we're going to have an in-person option, and I'll talk about that in a second. And that's going to go on for the next 20 days through the end of November, beginning of December. And then on the 17th, we'll be back here at commission, and you will vote whether or not to approve these rates. If approved, they would go into service, or they would go into effect January 1st of the new year. And so last year, Commissioner Moody had asked if we were doing anything to reach out to citizens that aren't necessarily as technologically connected. So this year we're trying something new. We're going to have public office hours. So I'll be setting up in a different branch of the Grand Rapids Public Library, one in each ward for the next 3 Fridays, and then one Saturday as well for anyone that can't get time off during the work week. I'll be tabling. If they have questions, they can come in. I will walk them through the pieces of the rate study. If they have concerns, they can voice them then. So please feel free to share this with your constituents. And with that, thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, any questions or comments? It's a very thorough review. Thank you. Commissioner Sassi?
I was going to say, wow, I want to watch the video from you doing this last year, because hadn't you just gotten the job like 2 days before or something? Something like that. So you should watch it, and just you were confident and had a lot of knowledge in explaining something that is often, is just complex. So I want to say thank you for adding those pieces on the engagement side. I know you're very engaged too, and you're always at a lot of different things. And I wanted to, so you had those sessions, and then we have the little video too, right? So we can point people to the video. I shouldn't call it the little video, but the video, because it's a lengthy video.
Yes.
But it's a good video and a good, I think, again, whether it's technology accessibility, different levels of just education, and just to be able to watch a video sometimes is just much easier than reading something. So just wanted to highlight that as well, because I think that was well done. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Commissioner?
Thank you so much for the presentation. You and your team have taken a really wonky subject and really broken it down really well. So I also just wanted to commend you for that. I read the residence guide, I read the overview, I watched the video. This is helpful. So all these pieces I think have, and I love the addition of the outreach. Can you just clarify the outreach? Is that an official entry point for public comment, or is it more so an education and awareness opportunity?
So it can function as both. We do have a form created. So if someone comes in and they want to lodge a comment, we have a form for them that they can either they can fill out themselves, and we will officially record that in the rate study, and we'll use it while building next year's budget. Or if they feel more comfortable, they can just speak with me and nothing has to be recorded.
Okay, thank you. And then a final question, you mentioned that some communities choose to buy down their rates. Can you talk a little bit more about that and share if Grand Rapids has ever done that?
Absolutely. So historically, I've only seen one community do this, Walker. So typically the way that it would work is after rates are calculated, and we say, so again, going back to the revenue requirement, we say this is how much revenue your community needs to collect. A contribution works after the fact, where we say that it is increased by X amount, and the community is choosing to front that bill rather than having citizens pay it. And so, again, I've only seen Walker do this in the past, so it doesn't affect any other community's rates. It has no impact on the system as a whole. It's just them choosing to pay down some of that revenue requirement now to keep rates from going up. Now, there is some drawback to that, in that if they stop making contributions next year, that revenue requirement has still grown. And so now, instead of having a 2% rate increase this year and a 2% rate increase next year, they might have a 1% this year, but then it's going to be 4% or 5% next year.
Thank you. Thank you, that's really helpful. And again, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, and job well done. Just want to highlight a policy issue. I know that in the past, and we've been asked about potential state legislation that would create a statewide water bill assistance program. And we have often raised concerns about that because that proposed legislation would require that we make contributions into a statewide fund that we could not guarantee the utilization of that back in our own community, but it may help some other city throughout the country. And so I just wanted to show, and part of the reasons for our concerns about that and mandatory participation, because unlike other communities, we do have a water bill assistance program, as Mr. Verbrugge said earlier, that is very well funded and is able to meet the demand to take care of our own community. We don't have to participate in any unfunded mandates. So I just wanted to point that out because I know that's still a topic of discussion around some areas of the state.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager. I'm glad you brought that up. And I'll just add to that, I've been in conversations with state legislators about that as well. And I think many cities that have concerns about that. One, because these are enterprise funds. I think there's some concern that it would be actually in violation of BOLT. So I know City Attorney is well aware of that. And having our ratepayers pay into a fund that likely would be utilized in communities not even close to West Michigan is what people are concerned about. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that and talk to our legislators. I think some mayors have real concerns about even the legality of it. And I'll just say, having worked with mayors and cities throughout our state, I'm really proud that our water and sewer department, I believe, is the best run in the state of Michigan. And we know that that's not always the case. These are absolutely essential services that local units of government provide. And the fact that we get recognized statewide as well as nationally for our water and sewer department. I think is something we all should be very proud of and will continue to do because we have great staff, great partners throughout West Michigan who are working with us to make sure that we have clean water and that we are responding to our waste and sewage to the best of our ability. So with that, I'll close this briefing. Commissioners, why don't we take just a couple minutes break, and then I'll meet you down in the law library for our executive session.